Hello and welcome to the Vinyl Sanctuary. My name is Christian and I hope that you will join me in taking refuge in records. So I'm here today with an album ranking video and I'm going to be looking at the discography of the post-punk new wave group, The Passions. So I'm really looking forward to getting into this one. There's 3 studio albums to rank and they were released over a 3-year period between 1980 and 1982. But the band itself, which was formed in London, they started out in 1978 and then they disbanded in 1983. So I'll just give a little bit of extra background before I get into the rankings. I'm going to be consulting my notes here and all the scribbles I've got here in my trusty notebook just to make sure that I keep on track, and because I've captured here my thoughts and feelings revisiting these albums again and offering as well some justifications as to why I've ranked the albums the way that I have. So right off the bat, these are all, in my opinion, excellent albums. So it's least favourite to favourite. I'd say that they're all definitely worth your time and attention. So please do sit back and enjoy what I'm about to show. I do hope that that's the case for you all. If you're new to the Passions, then I hope that my video will give you the inspiration to check them out. And maybe if you're a long-time fan or you're vaguely aware of them, then it might give you the impetus to go and reconnect with their discography. Okay, so there were just 2 constants in the band in terms of members. Quite a lot of members came and went. There were various bass players and, sort of people coming in to appear on recordings, etc. But the 2 constants in the group were guitarist and vocalist Barbara Gogan. She was born in Dublin, moved over to London later in her life. After I think she'd studied art in France for a time as well when she was a teenager. So Barbara Gogan, guitarist and vocalist, and then drummer Richard Williams. So they're the 2 that were there from the beginning and then they were there at the very end. And as I mentioned, post-punk new wave group. And they were Science Fiction Records, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. And then they moved over to Polydor. So we'll get into it. 3 albums to go through, and as I mentioned, I'll show the record first and then I'll just be reading through my notes. Okay, so at number 3 then, I've got their final studio album, which was released in 1982, and that record is called Sanctuary. There we go. So there's the front cover. So we've got Barbara Gogan there on the front. There's Barbara at the front there, guitarist and vocalist, as I've mentioned. Richard Williams there on the drums. And at this point in the band's lifetime, we've got David Agar here on bass guitar, and he provides vocals as well. So that's the band at that stage. You've also got appearing on here as well Kevin Armstrong on guitar and vocals, and also Jeff Smith. So I'll talk a little bit more about the album now. So there's the back cover as well. And then what I'll do is when I finish talking through my notes, I'll show you the album cover again, front and back. So yeah, as you can see there here, Polydor. That's my copy of it. Sanctuary. There we go. Okay. Just pop that away. Okay, so this record, it was produced by Mick Glossop and Pete Wilson. And in my opinion, it's a fine album, but not as memorable as the 2 albums which preceded it. So Kevin Armstrong, I feel, along with Barbara Gogan on her guitar playing duties as well, provides some lovely textures to some of these songs. And keyboardist Jeff Smith, as I mentioned, is on board. He is on for this album, not on any of the other albums. And he had previously worked with Lena Lovitch, which I thought was pretty interesting. So, because I do hear quite a bit of Lena Lovitch in the sound of the Passions overall. So Jump for Joy, which is the opening track on the album, I feel was a great choice of single. And it is one of the strongest songs on the album. Very, very memorable. It's got a real Susie and the Banshees vibe to it, which I find rather hypnotic. I'd also say that this album, maybe in comparison to the other 2, it's got quite a lush and glossy production job on it. I'd also say as well that Gogan's voice throughout is superb, whether it's on smoother material such as Love is Essential and In Tonight, but also on the more rhythmically driven songs such as The Letter and White Lies and the aforementioned Jump for Joy. That really does have a really great Susie sort of a vibe to it. There's also a great song on here as well called Cars Driven Fast. That's another favourite of mine. And Cars Driven Fast was actually a title that was originally considered for this album before the group settled on Sanctuary. as the title of the album. Sanctuary, the song itself, is the closing track on here, and it is a really, really effective closer, very enjoyable listen. So overall, I'd say it's nice, lush, glossy, more kind of synth pop, I would say, than post-punk. There's definitely a new wave element to it as well. There's some really nice guitar flourishes. There's a little bit of slide guitar in places on one of the earlier tracks, and then later on as well, you even get like a bit of a sort of a Spanish kind of nylon string guitar flavour coming in as well. So there's some really nice sort of detours here and there, but overall it's just a really good, solid, enjoyable listen. So coming in at number 3, Sanctuary from 1982. There we go. Okay, so moving on then, we're already up to the second of my 3. So coming in silver place, so to speak, I've got ranked their debut album, which is Michael and Miranda, and this came out in 1980. So here's my copy here, Michael and Miranda. And then when you flip it, on the reverse, you've almost got like an alternate title, front cover, which I think is really cool as well. So I just love the contrast of that. Really great photographs of the group here as well. Excuse me. So at this stage of the group's existence, got Claire Bidwell here on bass guitar, Richard Williams again, of course, on the drums, got Clive Timperley here on guitar, and then there's Barbara Gogan as well. So Michael and Miranda. There we go. Then inside, it's just got a plain inner sleeve to it. I'll take it out. You can see this one here is on Fiction. So the debut album was released on Fiction Records, with the other 2 being on Polydor. And I think as well, I might have I think there's the lyric sheet in here. Yeah. And mine was a limited edition copy as well on here. Got a little embossed price tag on there of $2.99, pay no more than $2.99, which I think is roughly about what I paid for it. So there we go. There's all your lyrics, personnel information, and then a really great photograph of the band there as well. Nice black and white image. Hopefully that's coming through there on the picture without any interference from the ring light. So it's nice that I've got that little insert still with it as well. Okay, so Michael Miranda. So this one was produced by Fiction Records founder Chris Parry, and it was engineered by Mike Hedges. He went on to do some other incredible work as well, did Mike. And at this stage, the Passions were label mates of The Cure, and they supported them on a UK and European tour the same year that this album was released. So in 1980, Passions hit the road with The Cure. I also would have to mention here that the Passions sound a lot like The Cure on this album, especially their Three Imaginary Boys era. So there's a lot of kind of spiky, spidery post-punk guitar work going on here. The opening track, Pedal Fury, is a real favourite of mine, with its really propulsive, spidery bass line provided by Claire Bidwell. And then there's some really spiky, shrieky guitar work by Clive Timperley too, which I found really cool, really enjoyable to listen to. The lyrics of Pedal Fury convey a compelling story. And Gogan on here, Barbara Gogan, she chooses to deliver her vocals in a more sort of punky sing-speak style, which suits the tone of the song very well. And I would say that that's quite a prevailing theme throughout the rest of the album. So I must say Barbara Gogan does have a truly beautiful voice. It's a voice that I love listening to. It's very versatile. It can sing lots of different styles, but I do feel that on this debut album, she's kind of reining in the vocal ability, so to speak, in terms of the range, but does it very effectively because of the material that the band are putting out at this stage in the career. So I would also say that this album shows the Passions at their most stripped back, serving up a skeletal sound that is brimming with angular hooks, tasty guitar lines, and some really superb bass work. Again, I can't really overemphasize just how good the bass playing is on this by Claire Bidwell. The song Oh No It's You in particular sounds like a long-lost Lena Lovitch song, and I would say that Barbara Gogan's vocals are quite similar to Lena Lovitch on that one as well. So for any Lena Lovitch fans out there, you might really appreciate or really enjoy the song Oh No It's You. There's some excellent drumming by Richard Williams on that track as well, but throughout the album itself, which I really feel fleshes out the material just a touch, but without ever overpowering or intruding too much on the songs. There's a lot of breathing space within these songs, very sparse, which you would expect with post-punk. You know, there's room to breathe. You're not being overwhelmed too much by lots of different overdubs and, you know, bits and pieces coming in from all over. It's very, very stripped back, but very effective. So at the time that the record came out, Record Collector described the album as being sparse and jagged, which I completely agree with, and also satisfyingly clever post-punk, which I think is a very fair statement as well. As I've just mentioned there, I've got it in the notes again, but I will repeat it just for emphasis. I have mentioned here again that Barbara Gogan doesn't stretch herself vocally, but it does lend itself to the mood of the album. Her singing is pretty in places, so she does mix it up a little bit, but more often than not, there's quite a gloomy tone that the band is aiming for, and I do think that they deliver that and capture that. You know, it is 1980, it is a post-punk record, so it is pretty gloomy. You know, it isn't overly sunshiny or happy in any way, but really, really effective. So speaking of gloomy and actually quite a sinister track, really, another song that I wanna mention is "Man on the Tube." It's a really excellent song, this one. It's got a really ear-catching narrative, quite striking, really. And I really love the intro guitar riff on the song "Snow" as well. So Clive Timpley just has this real knack of being able to put together these very sort of almost like quite syncopated, arpeggiated guitar lines. Very, very economical in their playing and style, but just super effective and really, really capture the ear, especially for myself, who's a guitar player who really does gravitate to this kind of playing. I just find that kind of jagged, almost angular sort of style to be really, really pleasant, and it's quite clean sounding a lot of the time as well. So I would say that "Snow" is definitely a song to check out. "Man on the Tube," "Pedal Fury," "Oh No It's You," all great songs, but for me there is no bad songs on this album whatsoever. Very, very solid indeed, and it's only because the album that I've got above it, which I do think is a bit of a slow burner masterpiece for me, and I'll get into a little bit more in a second with that one as to how I reconnected with it. This is a great starting point with The Passions, Michael Miranda. So I'd say that if you're into the early sound of The Cure, early Susie and the Banshees, Lena Lovitch, maybe even a bit of Wire, Young Marble Giants, even early B-52s, then I really think you should check this album out. It's an excellent, really excellent debut. So there we go again. Michael Miranda by The Passions, front and back. Okay, so my favourite album then by this group. Truly, truly excellent album, as I mentioned. It just gets better and better the more that I hear it. Don't quite understand why I kind of neglected it for as long as I did, because I've had it in the collection for years and years alongside these records, but it's just one of those, and I'll get into it now as to why I reconnected. But love this album. So my favourite Passions album is their second release, which came out in 1981, and it is 30,000 Feet Over China. Love that front cover as well, which I think is so appropriate to the sort of the hazy, kind of blurred wooziness of this record. I think the artwork on here really does complement the sound. So again, as you can see, this one was on Polydor. Great album. Really looking forward to talking about this one. So just show you the record itself. No inserts or anything with this one, but not with my copy. So there's the record. There we go. Yeah, 30,000 Feet Over China, 1981. Lovely album. Okay, let's consult my notes. I really enjoyed giving this another spin last night as well. Okay, so people will, or most people I think will know the big hit off this album. It was their only charting song. This is the album that opens up with "I'm in Love with a German Film Star." What a song, what an opening track. It's just immense. The more I think about it, really, it was extremely unlucky not to have gotten into my top 100 opening album tracks when I did the 10-part series on that. So if anybody's maybe tuning in to me who's new to the channel, I would really appreciate it if you check out my videos there on the opening tracks and my top 100. I did that over 10 videos, so there's a lot of content there. But yeah, now that I think about it, this song really did have a shout to get into that, but unlucky to miss out. So it is an awesome song. It really is. It reached number 25 on the UK singles chart, and it was, I suppose, when I was thinking about that song and just how lovely it sounded, I just put it on again quite randomly one night, and that was the song, I should say, that kind of reconnected me again with the Passions, and then went on to inspire me to do this ranking video. So I've just written here that, after many years of not having listened to the album, and the song, I'm in love with a German film star, it is without question the band's most famous song. I was struggling to sleep one night, and I decided to put I'm in love with a German film star on, and then I enjoyed it so much that I then just started to listen to the rest of the album. And as it was playing, I started to go through my head about all the other albums that I used to listen to on a regular basis that used to help me to go to sleep. And it did occur to me and dawn on me that this was an album years ago, just because it's got such a kind of a dream poppy, ethereal quality to it, that it did used to really help me to nod off. So it's an album of this type and other albums that I listen to help me go to sleep, I would call nocturnal listens. That's kind of the sort of the unofficial name that I give to albums like that. Anything that helps me to nod off when I'm struggling to get a bit of kip. I'm always grateful for albums like that kind of, just lull you to sleep. And this one certainly does that in a really beautiful way. Not through boredom, just want to be clear on that. It doesn't send me to sleep because it's not listenable. It's because it is so beautifully listenable. It's just got that dream poppy quality to it. So, you've got the kind of the lush synth poppy, more driven style of the third album, Sanctuary, the sparse, skeletal post-punk of Michael Miranda, the debut, and then they serve up this beautiful dream pop album, I would say, with a little bit of an edge to it in the middle. So, what else have I got written here then? I just said that I remember this album amongst the bunch of albums that used to help me to go to sleep. Listened to it all in full, and then I promptly fell in love with it all over again, which I really did. So not only the opening song, I'm in love with a German film star, which I've always loved, and it does tend to pop up on quite a lot of these sort of alternative 80s compilations and things like that. Always loved that track, but it was when I was listening to the rest of it, I just thought, blimey, it's been way too long since I've put this album on. And then that inspired me to go back and listen to Michael Miranda and Sanctuary as well. So, in my opinion, this is the Passions album to get if you are into the ethereal dream pop sound. There's a bit of post-punk in there as well, a little bit of that Susie vibe, just a little bit. But I would say that it's more of a soothing listen, and that's due to the brilliant combination of Barbara Gogan's voice, and it is beautiful on here. She is definitely exploring the range on this second album much more than on the debut, but the guitar work on this album is just something else, and that is courtesy of Clive Timperley. It's absolutely exquisite, sort of echoplex drenched guitar work, loads of reverb, sort of twang, arpeggios in there, everything. Honestly, the guitar playing on this album, and for me as a guitarist myself, I just kind of, my jaw drops and just marvels at how beautiful some of this guitar work is. It really, really is just amazing guitar playing on here. Everybody's pulling in the direction. David Agar's on bass duties for this album as well, so he'd replace Claire Bidwell at this stage. Richard Williams' drumming on here is masterful. I would say that it serves every song, and it's just very, very tasteful, textured playing by Richard Williams. Really, really well done. So I would say as well that every song on here is very, very, very strong. I would say for me, it's the finest kind of batch of songs that I feel the Passions did put together for an album. It was produced by Nigel Gray, Pete Wilson, and the Passions themselves. And I'm going to get into some of those personal favourite tracks as well. So I have to say, it is obvious, I've already waxed lyrical about it already, but I'm in love with a German film star is famous for a reason. It was a hit. As I said, got into the top, it was top 25, and it is just because it is a beautiful, beautiful song. So it is one of my favourites on the album. It can't really be denied. It's a classic of its type of the genre, and I'm sure, really sort of full-on fans of early 80s post-punk new wave would have an appreciation for that song. So the lyrics itself were actually inspired by a person called Steve Rodent Connolly, and that's Rodent spelled Rodent. And when I was doing my research, Steve Rodent was actually a roadie, or had been a roadie for The Clash and the Sex Pistols, and he had actually landed some minor film roles in several German films. So Barbara Gogan's, the object of Barbara Gogan's affection here is actually Steve Connolly. I'm in love with a German film star, and the lyrics in it are great. She sings about him, meeting him in a bar, meeting him in a movie, at a movie, talking about him striking poses and, for the cameras and the girls, it's a glamorous world. Really, really great lyrics, and a voice on it, super soothing as well. I also want to pay or give special mention to the track Skin Deep, which was, I think that was also a single, and that works really well because you've got Barbara Gogan's voice coming in towards the end of it, but primarily it's Clive Timperley and David Agar just repeating the song title over and over again, like Skin Deep, and it works really well over this quite a rhythmic up-tempo musical backing to it. So I do think that the repetition of Skin Deep by Clive and Dave works very well. I'm not sure if Richard Williams is chiming in on the vocals as well. If he is, I apologise, but I do think it is just Dave and Clive. And it's got quite a New Order style soundscape going on to it, that one, Skin Deep, like very kind of early 80s New Order, I would say. So I really enjoy Skin Deep, and it's a brilliant closing track to this album as well. I also want to mention the song The Swimmer, which was a double A side with I'm in love with a German film star. And what I love the most about The Swimmer is that it's got this really excellent shifting dynamics right at the start of the song. So the intro starts off kind of in one style, actually sounds quite dark and quite ominous. Barbara's voice is almost quite hushed and almost, again, kind of that speaking style. And then the song just kind of explodes into life with this really great piece of jingly jangly guitar playing by Clive Timperley. The whole thing just kind of bursts into life, like I mentioned. The tempo shifts, the dynamics kind of soar, and it is really brilliant. It's a great track. There's also like a false fade on it as well. It kind of fades out and then it comes back in, and I do like songs that do that. It just when you think it's kind of over and then you get that little bonus bit at the end. I really enjoyed that. Okay, and then so alongside, like I say, The Swimmer, I'm in love with the German film star, Skin Deep, they're all great songs on the album. I also wanted to give a mention to a really gorgeous dream pop song on here called Someone Special, which has got really emotive lyrics to it, really emotive. Love the lyrics of Someone Special. Might even be my favourite on the album, actually. I wanted to say as well that all the band members, I feel, really shine on this record. But for me, Timperley's guitar work here it's breathtaking. I can't really say any more than that. I think it's one of those albums that if I'm ever feeling inspired to pick up the guitar myself and just, have a bit of a noodle and just try and come up with a few bits and pieces, this for me now feels like an album that I'll go and put on just to listen to how great guitar playing can be. And obviously this is only my opinion, so, there might be people out there that listen to Clive Timperley's playing and it might not be for them, but this for me is the kind of style that I like and that I love. So, we've all got our favourite sorts of players, but for me, this sort of playing, this style is where it's at. And I love and admire lots of different types of players, but I really do have a special passion for post-punk players. Okay, and then I've just made a couple of notes here about what I feel Timperley's sound actually, what his style, what does it remind me of, or who does he remind me of? So on this record, in places it sounds a bit like Andy Summers, Vinnie Riley from the Durruti column, and I've just put here as a note to myself more than anything, but I'll share it here, that I wonder if his guitar playing went on to influence Maurice Deebank from Felt, who is another band I absolutely adore. People who tune into me regularly will know about my love of Felt, and I have done an album ranking video on Felt, on their discography, so anyone who's into Felt, who's maybe new to the channel, please do check that video out. But I do hear a lot of Maurice Deebank there as well. He obviously came up later, he was after Clive Timperley, but there is a similar style. I think I mentioned it before, but lots of arpeggios here, Great use of reverb, echoplex, delay, just total command of what makes guitar playing in service to songs as well. So what I mean by that is I love players who play for the song and not for themselves. So whilst the playing here is textured and deceptively simple, I would say in some regards, because there's a lot of suppose like pedals and things being used in effects. It just sounds always for the betterment of the song. It's not trying to kind of be front and center and be showy. It's just there, and it just keeps things moving along really beautifully and just creates this really kind of woozy, hazy sonic landscape, which I'm totally there for. Okay, and yeah, I did want to just mention a couple of those more sort of slightly more aggressive songs as well, because I would categorize this as a dream pop album overall, but that's not to say that there isn't the odd kind of spike every now and again. So I'd say that the more moody and aggressive tracks on here, there's one called Small Stones, which has got like again a real kind of a Susie and the Banshees feel to it, which isn't surprising really. I mean, the Passions were out in '78, based in London around the time of the Banshees themselves, so there are definitely some similarities there that I hear, but I would say that the Passions very much did their thing and Susie and the Banshees did their thing. So there's definitely, I wouldn't say there's any kind of overt influence or similarities to the point where it feels like one is a carbon copy of the other. I just think that they're both doing what they're doing and doing it extremely well. But one can't help to hear just a touch of similarity here and there. And speaking of similarities, I've also made a note here. There's a great song on here called Bachelor Girls as well, which has a really great energy to it. So it is quite in contrast to maybe some of the woozier, slower tracks on this album. But Bachelor Girls to me is really reminiscent of Grinding Halt by The Cure. So as I mentioned earlier with Michael and Miranda, the debut album, if you're really into that early Cure sound, Three Imaginary Boys, that sort of stuff, then I really think you're definitely going to love the debut album, but I think you'll really enjoy Bachelor Girls off this second album as well. So just wanted to get that in there as well. So yeah, just a lovely album that really captivates me. 30,000 Feet Over China, even the title I think as well. There's just something really kind of sky high and soaring about that title, and just a record musically that takes me to another place. So highly recommended for dream pop fans if you're not aware of it. But I also think that post-punkers and new wavers will savour a lot there as well. Okay, so that's me all done and dusted. I really enjoyed going through those albums. So please do let me know if you're a fan of the Passions. Do let me know if you ever you got the chance to maybe catch them live. I have read up on them, obviously, as part of my research for this video, and I believe that they were a genuinely superb band live, which I can totally believe. They sound very tight on record, so please do let me know if you've got any stories regarding the Passions. Are they a group that are new to you? Are they a band that you've loved for years and years and you can't get enough of them? Please do get involved in the comments, because I always love to read the opinions of others. I'd also like to say as well, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate it. It means a lot that you've tuned in. And if you like what I've done today, then I would be grateful if you could please consider giving the video a like. And if you're new to the Vinyl Sanctuary and you would like to join me and the community here in taking refuge in records, then please do consider subscribing. That'd be lovely. If you did, it'd be great to have you here. And if you choose to do that, then please do click the notification bell, and that will give you all the alerts that you need as to when I've got new content landing. So yeah, looking forward to getting my next video sorted out. Going to go and have another think about what to do next, but just enjoying things here at the moment. It's still obviously very early here in 2026 at the point that I'm recording, although I can't believe we're already into February. That first month of the new year just sort of seemed to totally fly by. I've been keeping busy with all manner of stuff, but obviously want to keep trying to come up with some nice ideas for the channel. There's some ideas that were shared with me as well back at the back end of last year, which will be undertaken at some point in the year, I'm sure, but just as and when I've got the time and the space to do it justice, really. So in the meantime, I'll just be doing some new bits and pieces and continuing to really enjoy listening to my music and also connecting with the community out there as well. So until next time, thank you very much, everybody. Hope you enjoy it, and if you do check out the Passions, let me know. Bye for now.